Hey everyone, just a quick special note to our wonderful listeners. Our guest on this episode had an audio problem that we were unable to repair in post-production. It is listenable, but please know that the glitches in her audio are a known issue, and we did what we could. It's totally listenable, but it's not perfect, and we have pretty high standards for our audio, so just wanted to let you guys know, and you're not, in fact, losing your mind. Thanks.
Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and the challenges of flying in midlife. My name is Ben. I'm based in the Atlanta metro area, flying a Cessna 182. Joining me, as always, tonight is my friend in the heart of Music Row. His name is Brian. Good evening, sir.
Hello, friends.
Hello. Also, as always, our time stamper extraordinaire, our friend in Portlandia, it's Ted. Hello.
Hey, glad to be here.
And we're very fortunate tonight to have a CFII TBM driver and someone who we call our friend. It's Erica Gilbert. Hello, sir. Or ma'am, not sir.
That's all right. I get it all the time on the radio. Nice to be here.
Hopefully you don't get that on the radio.
Oh, it's just, controllers are used to saying sir or whatever. So,
well, I don't have that excuse. I'm not in control. We have Eric on tonight to talk a little bit about Checkride prep, and some of us have some recent experience in that as well. Was going to go around the horn tonight and check in to see what everybody's been up to. Mr. Siskin, do you want to start us off and tell us maybe some good news?
Well, yeah. So thanks to our, not sponsor, but friend, Erica Gilbert Aviation, online ground school. And also, you don't really advertise this, Erica, but when people do take your online ground school, you have her cell number. You can call or text any time, morning, day, night, and she will generally respond in kind. And so you have total access to Erica Gilbert. She just basically will sit around and wait for you to call. And when you have all that, you get prepared, even just with the ground school on its own. It's been a great cohort that I've been in with that class, but it all has culminated in me passing my instrument written tests. So.
Congratulations. Crowd noise.
I appreciate that, but I know that while you folks are all very happy for me and proud of me, I know that you're also sick of hearing about it. And so, so that's a thing. But in general, I find the gauntlet of the written test to be just, I don't know. It's so the art of the test. It's so not about, well, you have to have the knowledge, but it's not, you guys know. So it's hard. I think the midlife perspective here is that it is harder to do things when you know that they are at least partially, if not severely weighted in formality and just kind of obfuscated, we're just putting a hurdle in front of you kind of thing. Doesn't mean that the knowledge is not necessary, but the way that the test works, it's very, standardized test. So anyway, my experience was fine. I mentioned my score. I got an 88, so I feel pretty good about that. It's kind of the, like the meaty part of the curve. You're not showing off, but you're not slacking.
Yeah.
It's like a solid grilled cheese sandwich, with slightly better ingredients than Kraft singles or something. But anyway, so super glad. Thank you, Erica, for helping me and being available and coaching me through the more psychological battle than as much as the knowledge, the psychological battle.
So also, if y'all didn't know, Erica does, for an additional fee, can be your therapist, because I'm pretty sure she provided a lot of therapy to Brian.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Don't mistake it. I never thought for a minute, Erica, that you cared in the sense that like you never called to check on me. You were probably on the sort of double call rule. Like if I call you more than once, like I'll pick up kind of thing. It's like this better be an emergency. And it was to me, Erica. It was to me.
I know. I replied as often as I could. Sometimes I'm in the airplane. I can't reply immediately. But I just want to point out that you set a goal for yourself 3 months ago that you would get this written done around the middle of November. Yeah. And you freaking knocked it out of the park. And so I think more than anything, yes, accomplishing, getting it written done is a huge deal, but you set a goal and you achieved it. So anything else that you want to do, aviation related or in life in general, you're going to knock it out of the park.
Well, I appreciate that. I did get it done in the time frame that I hoped to. And it's kind of motivating in the sense that it's so unpleasant to study for this test that it becomes, it's kind of like going to the supermarket and just shoveling raw broccoli in your face until you can't eat anymore. It's kind of when I'm studying that stuff. But I will say that a lot of stuff started to connect. And that's what I love about the knowledge portion, is there is this moment where things that were just frustrating and just, I cannot correlate these pieces. There's that moment where things start to kind of correlate. And with the level of practical experience I've had in the plane, with that, that was really a nice little moment. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, once you see the entirety, once you've felt your way around the dark room to figure out how big it really is, even if you don't understand where you are in space and what's in there and what's going to come out and get you or whatever, just when you have a sense of, okay, this is a 12 by 12 room. Okay. All right. Like once you have a sense of what is the entirety of subject matter here, then it becomes a lot more doable. I think at first it just feels like stuff just keeps coming. Oh my gosh, now this and then this. But then once you've kind of seen the patterns and the depth of the information, the extent of the depth of the information, then it becomes a lot more achievable. So for those who haven't done any, tests lately, or you're looking to do your private test, it's all the same kind of thing. It's about the art of taking the test and have somebody like Erica or your CFI or somebody to reach out to get that inside information on how to take it, because it's an art to taking the test as much as it is to have the knowledge. So anyway, thank you guys.
So it's that feeling of you were thrown into a swimming pool and you're like, oh no, I'm drowning. Oh no, I'm drowning. Oh wait, there's the ground. It's actually only 4 feet deep. But there's the moment before and you think, well, this is it.
Well, actually, for me, it was like, wait, there's no water in this pool. That hurt.
Yeah.
I want to hit Captain Todd's comment. He says, I've been flying a ton of solo hard IMC since I passed my written, and I'm starting to feel real good about my practical exams. So that's probably going to be you, Brian, on tap here. So.
So good. That's so good.
Yeah.
So Ted, I want to hit you up real quick. You said you've been having some fun with some avionics, I believe. Yeah.
So I knew basically when the time changed that I'd be doing a lot less flying, and I've been postponing an error that one of my 2 Dynon panels have been giving me. And so I pulled it out and shipped it up to Dynon. And one of the messages from them said they'll be replacing it for free. The other one said it'll be about 1 AMU. So I'm sure this is the same experience you all have, where it just takes 6 screws and 1 connector and you get half of your panel completely removed. So yeah, it's a strange experience.
Yeah. Very cool. Miss Gilbert, have you been doing any fun flying lately?
Oh, fun flying.
Is it all fun flying though?
Yeah, exactly. All flying I do is fun. I've been doing a lot of serious flying. Got a couple of clients who aren't certificated pilots yet, but they want to use their planes to, still live the serious life, go out and do experience the freedom that personal aviation gives you. So I've been fortunate to be able to do some of those day trips in those planes, get to know some great people. Continuing on with instruction, I've got some really great students right now, both instrument and private, and fun flying. I feel like I did do something recently, but I can't recall.
No TBM flights lately?
Oh, yes. Where did we go? South Dakota. I was in South Dakota last week.
Okay.
Yeah, for a little pheasant trip. And then we'll be headed to Huntsville this weekend for some family time.
Nice. Good for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to my flying here in a bit. I thought maybe we would kind of, we have Eric on to talk about Checkride prep, in which I had one of those, but I wanted to go ahead and hit the events that we've got lined up, if that's okay with you guys. No comment from Brian, so I guess it means it's okay. So we've talked about this before. Our Midlife Pilot spring event is going to be the Thaden Invasion, and that is at Victor Bravo Tango, Bentonville, Arkansas. It's going to be March 13th through the 15th, 2026. We're calling it the Thaden Invasion because the name of the field is Thaden Field, and we got some feedback on this. And from Michael N., I'm going to hit it real quick, and then we'll get into a few more details about the fly-in. But he said, "Hello, I love your podcast. I started listening this summer after I've started flying again after 12 years, now that I'm 40 and my children are bigger. I just wanted to check if you guys and the rest of the listeners are aware of the history of Thaden Field and the woman it is named for. I was not until I just read the book Fly Girls by Keith O'Brien. Louise Thaden was a aviation pioneer in the 1920s and 30s. Among many accomplishments, she was the first woman to win the Bendix Cup air race, and she spent 7 days in the air without stopping, refueling with a hose from another aircraft. Her story is pretty great and might be worth sharing with everyone," which we just did, joining you at Thaden Field. So thanks for your weekly motivation to keep flying. So that's a pretty cool story. I had no idea. I think that's a really cool deal.
Well, the restaurant on the field is also named Louise.
Oh, nice. Well, that kind of makes sense. So, but we've updated the website. We now have a RSVP form. Go to midlifepilotpodcast.com. And we'd like to get a head count and, quite frankly, a plane count, because the field is not unlimited parking. I think they can take quite a few airplanes. But we wanted you to know that up front that you may have to go to one of the other airports in the area. So,
which there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them
in a very tight area, which also reminds me that our friend Seth Lake has a fantastic podcast episode and graphics and videos and all kinds of things to break down that airspace. All of that is linked on our RSVP page. So when you do RSVP and you're looking at all that, follow that link. And thank you, Seth, for giving us that information. And yeah, if you don't have parking, I mean, I suppose you could, in the spirit of Louise Thaden, just circle the airport and we could, periodically.
Look, we're only asking you to do it 3 days, not 7 days.
Yeah.
I have to tell you guys, my son is an avid mountain biker, like big time. And he already has plans to take the wheels off his bike and see if they fit in the airplane. So,
oh yeah,
nice.
He's ready.
And you know how much of a mountain biking destination this place is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
that's so cool. Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, why don't you come, Erica?
It's not up to me at this point. He's already decided we'll be there.
Well, I know the wheels are going in the plane, so whether Erica's going or not, the plane is going. So yeah.
Can't leave without me though. So.
Yeah, and we are looking to maybe, as much as this is a come as you are and just have fun with us kind of thing, we are recording a live podcast there. We haven't figured out exactly where yet, but it'll be on the field probably somewhere there. Seth and some others really cool people are coming. So Erica is going to have to be there because she said it here. So she's going to have to show up now, which is pretty cool. Whenever I read about these flying for 7 days and, all these things, I just think about, all I can think about is the bathroom. That's all I can think about. And I just think they've earned, just for suffering that indignity for 1 week, they've earned the right to be legendary. But to do that in a race, in any kind of competitive way, it's just, that's a lot of pressure, you know?
Congrats, you won the race and a UTI.
Yeah. UTI rating. What is that, a rating?
Yeah.
But boy, we really need to move on. So I'm just going to knock out the housekeeping real quick. Please. And try to change the channel mentally. What's happening here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Now, Erica, what do you think I'm about to tell people?
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of our community, which we think is the most, I can't remember, supportive, encouraging community there is online, something like that. Thank you.
And who does, do you remember what 10% of our Patreon supports what?
Yeah, the Aviation Freedom Network.
Freedom Aviation Network.
Freedom Aviation Network, yes, which helps human trafficking, helps stop human.
Yeah, that's wow. What we've never needed a clearer distinction or correction on this show than that exact moment. Anti-human trafficking efforts.
Right.
Yes.
Help stop it. Help stop human trafficking.
Right. Not help stop anti-human trafficking.
Oops.
Okay. All right. Join our Patreon community for Discord access and lots of exclusive content. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts for everything Midlife Pilot podcast, feedback, merch, and more. And there might be some Thaden and Vision shirts already on the site. Some people have already figured that out. Visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. One quick note too. You can leave a PayPal drop via our website. Though One Dull Geek has masterfully created this, automagical robot kind of interface for our Patreon to connect to the Discord. And so when you do a PayPal drop, it does not, unfortunately, allow us to connect to the Discord. So if you want to make sure you have access to the Discord, then go the way of the Patreon. But I can understand sometimes people just want to do PayPal drops. We like it all. We really appreciate it all. And we make special surprises for everybody that supports us. And we won't tell what that is. Ted.
Yes. Well,
Patreon.
Most everyone that supports us. Yeah, I want to thank our new people on Patreon. At the Landomatic level, we have John H. and Curtis F. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Rich H., whose name's going to come up later, James S., Rob, Paul Z., Jose D., and Misty H. At the Beast Stole Kit level, we have Gary M., who did an upgrade. So thanks for upgrading, Gary, and thanks everyone else for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
You know, we experimented with ads for a little while to make this thing at least try to pay for itself, and we got rid of that when we went to Patreon. There's a reason we don't have ads, and we're not doing those. We're not doing dynamic ad insertion or getting any aviation ads either. So that's it. You get to hear from us more and not hear from whatever the random ads are that we get to hear in another podcast.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Ted, because when I'm planning a meal,
yeah. So anyway, speaking of Discord, I wrote down some accomplishments. Now, it's been 2 weeks since we technically recorded, so I tried to get everything that I saw going back in there. Flint got his tail wheel endorsement, so congrats for that.
Yeah.
Cool. MC Dickinson got tail wheel time in a super decathlon, and he was on grass, which is the way to do it. So nice that he's starting to get
We're not promoting the use of marijuana in flying, just to clear. Brian, you were thinking the same thing. Tell me right.
Wow.
Especially when Ted's like, and that's the way to do it. It's like,
man.
I don't know, man.
Wow. Well, anyway, he's also been working on a checkout for a Cirrus SR20 in his club. So I love going from the super decathlon all the way to the Cirrus. Like, great. Get flying everything you can. It's pretty cool. Brian passes instrument, and he made a sports ball reference. I didn't get it, but 88, that was cool. Rick M, new Patreon and also in Discord. Sorry, this is a different person. That's Rich. Rick had his lowest IMC approach and he broke out at 400 feet. He said, honestly, this would have seemed impossible to VFR only me 2 years ago, but the procedures really work. And the training combined with currency really do prepare one to do this in practice. Thought that was appropriate. We're going to be talking about some more smart stuff this week. Yeah. Go Grease Landing, one of our Canadian friends, passed 200 hours and is working on his commercial.
That's awesome.
Prescott Flyer has 400 hours in his RV9A. Those tracking the hours in a single tail number is kind of fun. There's meaning to that. Rich H, who is a fairly new sport pilot and joined us in Patreon, got his AGI, his ground instructor certificate. So great progress there. And a pointer, and this is more just a Discord pointer in general, not an accomplishment. Mike Alpha Golf was talking about how Discord is a brain rot free zone in our creativity channel. And there's a thread to kind of discuss that. It was a cool thought. This is a way that we can increase our attention spans. And I didn't even think about Discord as helping with that and getting out of kind of the algorithm of showing you content. So anyway, that's I thought that was kind of a cool little thread that was started in there.
We've said it before. I'll say it again. The Discord community is maybe one of the best perks you get when you support us on Patreon. So it's my go-to social media outlet, and I really appreciate the level of participation we get out of it. And you learn stuff from there.
Yeah. And Erica is so kind enough to correct me when I say stupid things in the Discord. It's keeping it real. Erica, you really are one of the only adults in the room, and you're the youngest here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we have a few people that jump. We have our friend Nathan Ballard who's in the chat tonight. He does chime in when he's not bouncing all over the country.
Look, I have big questions about our friend Nathan Ballard. Every time he's in the chat talking about he's logging the podcast as dual received, which is just that's not a good idea.
Yeah. So tonight we wanted to talk about a little bit about Checkride prep, and I guess we should just go ahead because Ted didn't include me in any of the accomplishments. Maybe that was on purpose. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. I figure you have zero.
And your accomplishment is the centerpiece to the whole show.
Yeah, I guess I probably should. So I am proud to say, as of Friday, I passed my multi-engine commercial add-on, not instrument.
Yeah. Nice job. Good work.
Thank you very much.
Does that mean
appreciate it.
What else do you need to do to fly the tri-motor?
I asked about that, actually. Not the tri-motor, but more than two engines. Do you need a different type? But it's anything that has more than two engines is going to require type rating. So you don't have to get another category. But
congratulations, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It feels really good. I did reduce the vulture population by 1 during my training. I do. It's my first bird strike, and it apparently was my instructor's 3rd bird strike. So maybe I won't say anything else beside that. But no, it was. I started off going to a regular school where it wasn't accelerated, and the instruction there was fantastic. I loved the owner and the other flight instructor, MEI. And the problem was that their airplane was going down for maintenance, maybe a little bit more for my liking. As soon as we would make, progress towards getting flows and things down, the plane would go down again. It would be down for 2 weeks. So it's not a slight on them at all, but I decided I needed to stop dragging this out. And I went to an accelerated program. We flew for 3 days, and I will tell you, it's disappointing to me. I'm still kind of stings a little bit, but I did get a notice of disapproval after my Checkride. There's a maneuver that you have to do called the single engine instrument approach. And I was flying a Baron, which is an amazing airplane, and more on that later. But it had a Dynon PFD, and I just did not get enough time to build a decent instrument scan. I went below the glide slope and did not correct in time, and rightfully got a notice of disapproval, which is fine. Went back 2 days later, flew it again, and everything was fine. So, we learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes. So, so that's what I had going on. I did the quick route, and the Checkride prep. It's a thing. I mean, it really is. You got to know systems. The oral exams is not a small thing in the multi. You got to know a lot of stuff about the airplane that you just got in. So, what you think?
I think this comment from Elliot is hilarious.
Yes.
Read the
birds
notes,
in the
birds are
vicinity.
in the vicinity.
Read the notams.
His full comment says, maybe next time read the notams. Birds are in the vicinity, sir.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Every ATIS ever. Yeah.
Let me tell you, there were a lot of buzzards there the entire time I was in North Carolina. I think North Carolina has its disproportionate share of turkey vultures flying around, because I felt like we spent a good time dodging them. It was noticeable. So.
Well, I have a question for you first, which is not going to be as maybe helpful as what Erica will inquire or get comment about. But I just wanted to say, from just a humanistic, psychological, human behavior kind of standpoint, to have any kind of a failure or discontinuance, or however you want to frame it. When we talked, when you called me, I said, well, congratulations, you got, 90% of your Checkride done. That's awesome. Of course it's a pain to go back and maybe a little bit more money or something. But I mean, the other part of it, I think that we discussed, it was interesting, was just that, other things. One was, if somebody's going to sign off that you can do something, then you'd like to be certain that you certifiably did that. You don't want to feel like you squeak by, or whatever you want to. You, for your own confidence and certainty, need to just feel like you've been truly evaluated. And then the other part of it was just that a lot of it has to do with just I think what's at the heart of the transition that you're making, to go from flying in the plane that you've owned for a long time, having fun, kind of you can get a little loose with it, versus a professional mindset, which is a different mindset. And, maybe some of that was some undercurrents to how you perhaps performed. And when we were talking about the avionics that you were not really used to, that seemed to be really central to this. So on one hand, one could just say, blame it on the avionics and say, but it's like your attitude was totally different. It was, I needed to take that difference more seriously perhaps than I did, or I don't know, I forget how you worded it, but it was something that kind of felt like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am of the personality where if something doesn't go right, the first thing I do is look in the mirror. It's just the way I was built. If there needs to be a change, I'm the best person I know to affect that change if I was directly involved with it. It's crushing. And for all of our listeners out there that are going through any Checkride, when you get a notice of disapproval, it is so crushing, because you have really nobody to blame but yourself most of the time. Now, I'm sure that there's some very strict DPEs out there, and you may do it fine and they perceive it differently. But in all my experiences, if you own up to the problem at hand, it's going to get resolved a lot quicker. Period. End of story. The only way to get better is to identify the problem and fix it. So, yeah, I mean, I dropped below the glide slope. There is no doubt about that. You cannot argue it any other way. And for me to do a better job, I needed to improve my scan of that specific instrument so I wouldn't let that happen again. And that's also something that can get you killed if you're flying below the glide slope on an instrument approach, especially on single engine airplane that doesn't have its peak performance. So yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be doing this professionally, I need to hold myself, and we all need to hold ourselves to higher standards. So we got a comment from our friend, Wendell Geek. So Brian, are you suggesting that a notice of disapproval can help fight imposter syndrome after you eventually get past that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that I don't know, it's a double-edged thing. On one hand, if you do it really comfortably and with ease and you just own the whole thing, then, you did that. But I guess I just look at it as a silver lining to getting a second pass at certain aspects of that. So
I want to ask Erica a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Erica a question.
Well, you go first.
No. Ben, you go ahead. No,
okay.
This is about your thing.
Well, this is about Checkride preparation and debriefs. And Erica, I'm assuming you've sent quite a few students either through a private or an instrument Checkride. If maybe you're perfect, maybe you haven't had any students get a notice of disapproval. I'm hoping that's the case, but is it?
I've got my students have 100% initial pass rate.
Okay.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Erica.
Well, then she's done a better job prepping their students. But I can't put this on my instructor. It's not his fault. But when you're getting your students ready for the Checkride, I mean, especially for the private, because they've never had any experience whatsoever with this thing. How are you getting them ready? Not the maneuvers, not the oral, but just the mental preparation of sitting in front of this guy or sitting next to him in the airplane. What do you do?
That's a really great question. There's a whole process that really begins at the start, right? So one of the first things I do on first lesson, especially if it's a ground, right? So if we can't fly, we sit down and we define PIC. And we talk about what PIC means. We talk about how it's used practically. We talk about developing a sense of PIC authority. And then all throughout training, I reiterate that, in order for you to be successful and safe, you have to know that you are in command of this aircraft and you have to take responsibility for that, which means do your work on the ground, do your work in the plane, and make the plane do what you want it to do. And if it doesn't, it's on you. So that kind of gets to this heart of, what is our mindset as pilots? Are we just resigned to accept whatever happens to us, or are we going to take charge and accountability like you were talking about, Ben? So it starts with that kind of groundwork of laying the expectations. And then I've learned, through my experience as an instructor, assistant chief at a Part 141 school and check instructor there, and then now the chief pilot at our flight training center with Cirrus's. The best way to prepare a student is to utilize all of the resources available to me, which often includes other instructors. So with every major stage of training, solo cross country, Checkride, we do stage checks where you go in and you get to have that experience of being evaluated by someone who's not supposed to be providing instruction. And so that kind of sets you up for the experience and prepares you for it. So even Part 61, I send my students for stage checks with other instructors where they get to have that experience. And then I also, near the end, did you, like in your case, Ben, did you know ahead of time that the avionics were a weak point for you?
No, because as a matter of fact, the day before, I flew and that's when we had the bird strike. I was on glide slope and on glide path in a 20-knot crosswind. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling really confident until we hit the bird, which I never saw. But and then when we came back from the Checkride, I shot a perfect instrument approach. And I'm not going to call it perfect if I didn't think it was. I think it was a momentary lapse that I just lost sight of that glide slope indicator. Having the pressure of sitting someone next to me that it threw me off. So I did not consider that as a weak point at the time.
Yeah. Now, can you recall what you maybe were fixated on?
Yeah.
Usually omission comes from fixation.
Yeah. I was fixated on the CDI.
The lateral.
Yeah. The lateral gun.
HSI.
I was chasing it a little bit. I was, even not even half a deflection off, and I was trying to get it nailed down, and then I was going to go back to the fly slope. Yeah. And by the time I got to that, it was too far below and too late. It was too far to correct.
Now, are you familiar with all the pieces of the HSI? Like the ground track indicator on a garment is going to be like a magenta diamond?
No.
Okay.
I just haven't flown with it. I haven't flown with that.
Yeah.
I will say, I take that back. The TAA, it had a G5. Mm-hmm. I don't know I can't remember if that was on there. I think maybe it was. But the Avidyne didn't have that, or maybe it did. I don't feel like maybe I had a little more time in the airplane, really drilling down on what all the symbology was and maybe how to develop that scan. Again, I'm not throwing my instructor under the bus. I should have spoken up and said, hey, maybe we should take a deeper dive at this. Yeah.
In a ground lesson or something, I think probably would have been better. So you could isolate each of the variables and then go up and fly and see what the HSI is telling you. A lot of people can get confused by the HSI, especially if they come from a standard 6-pack. Not to say that you were confused, but it just sounds like maybe there was information available to you that you didn't know how to interpret and use to set you up for the best success possible.
In my plan, we debriefed this after the Checkride. I have a Sandell, and I've always used, it has full crosshairs. So it's not just a hash mark or a little diamond. It covers the whole HSI to tell you if you're on laterally and vertically. And that was what my normal scan was. And I got 1,200 hours in that airplane. Yeah. So it's, some habits are a little harder to break.
I love that thing too. It looks kind of like a Marantz stereo or something.
Oh, I was thinking it reminds me of a rear projection big screen TV.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually what it is. It is a bulb in the back of it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, it's like a Pioneer hi-fi system.
Yeah. Well, I want to hit this comment from Grove SJ or Groves J. I don't know which. He said, I received a notice of disapproval on my private Checkride for one maneuver. Well, yes, it is a downer. Ultimately, the DPE made you earn that certificate, and there is still pride in the achievement. We did a podcast a million years ago about Checkride failures, and I always remember because our friend Josh talked about his on that, and it happens, and it's fine. I think in this case, it really says something different to Ben or about Ben, which is it's a reminder of not only being behind the plane, but it's mostly about unfamiliarity and getting used to being in a different plane. And maybe that's because I've had recent experience of getting out of my plane that I have 1 million hours in as well. But that whole, getting in a rental car and trying to figure out where cruise control is problem, right? And especially, I can imagine, especially with instrument, because it's like flying VFR, you can pretty much ignore every gauge that exists. And as long as the engine isn't on fire, you're fine, right? But, instrument is obviously a lot different.
I also just feel bad for these birds that had taken probably generations to figure out exactly what the 3-degree glide slope is for that whole area and have been just perfectly lingering right underneath it in safety.
I will say that through this, I have learned, I've mentioned on the podcast before, and Brian, you'll soon learn the true meaning of helmet fire when you start getting into the instrument flying part.
Well, I've already had them. Yeah. Like I said, when I totally forgot that I was probably should turn on the RNAV that I had been cleared. Like I just flew right through it. But hey, I was on my heading.
You were on your heading. What I'm saying is that when you put yourself through enough helmet fires, you're building that muscle of dealing with helmet fires. I think getting into new aircraft or different aircraft, you're now building that muscle of retraining yourself to okay, new airplane, I need a different scan here.
The adaptation muscle. Right.
That's right. Adaptation muscle is a great way to say it. So, and I will say one other thing. Okay. The Baron is so much fun to fly. We're doing steep turns. Now, this airplane, the avionics, they were expressed in miles per hour, and I know there's conversion, but we're doing steep turns at 160 miles an hour.
Oh, jeez.
And it was awesome. And when you get that was at 2,300 RPM and 20 inches of manifold. I mean, that's pulled back, and we're hauling. And so I'm flying around this airplane, just hauling butt everywhere. And then I get back in the plane to come home with a 40 knot tailwind, and I'm doing like 80 miles an hour with the ground.
No, 40
I thought I was never going to get
headwind.
Headwind.
Yeah.
It was
your plane isn't exactly pokey either.
No, it's not.
So the fact that it's like you do a track day in a Porsche and then driving home in your Corvette is a disappointment.
That's kind of what it felt like. So,
I do want to say that kind of Brian's point, and I think we've all touched on this, and I think Nate's touching on it too. There is to have a disapproval on a Checkride, it like zeroes in where your focus should be. If you get like Brian said, you get 90% of it done. Now you know what 10% you need to really focus on, and you can drop that. Not totally drop it, but you don't have to focus the energy. Whereas going into the Checkride, it's this overwhelming thing, kind of like Brian also was talking about with all the instrument information, preparing for the written. You don't really know what's going to happen. So the disapproval in a way provides clarification for what to focus on.
So our friend Nathan said, failing a Checkride was the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't sweat it. I agree. What I want to say is, especially to our midlife audience, I took 24 hours. I call it mourning the loss. It was supreme disappointment in myself because I wanted to do really well, as all midlifers want to do. But you've got to flush it down the toilet and move on, and pick it up from there, and then find the silver lining in it. As Nathan has said, it's the best thing that ever happened. So,
well, we want to now think about the prep aspect a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, Erica, obviously, we've kind of done this a little bit backwards in the sense that if any outcome is going to be good eventually, right? You're going to get this done. But nobody wants to be in that position. And outside of the things you kind of already touched on, like, when somebody's like me, where I'm neurotic, nervous, a little strange, I'm not the normal Checkride candidate, like you probably would worry about me going into it. What would you tell someone that's maybe, I work hard, but I've got my own challenges cognitively. What would you like? How do you, especially for the oral, but just in general, like what is the best way to prep in terms of the time frame, where your focus lies? Because so much of it's practical, but so much of it's knowledge and interpolation and knowing to when to shut up, all that kind of stuff. So walk us through like the ultimate prep guide from Erica School of Never Fails.
Well, I'm going to back it up again and say that I think it really starts in the beginning. And I truly believe that anyone that's going through any form of training needs to be their own advocate throughout their training. So, it starts with finding an instructor that uses a syllabus and an instructor that's not going to cancel lessons, but transition into a ground lesson with you so that you can really understand everything that you're maybe studying at home. That instructor should also be kind of sending you some homework or things to review before the next lesson and asking you to show up with questions. So if that has been your experience with training, then you will be very prepared leading up to this. However, if you're just showing up to training and your instructor says, what do you want to do today? And you don't know because you don't even know what the ACS is, then it's going to be really tough, right? So being your own best advocate to find a good instructor to lead you along the way. You guys talk about this all the time, but in midlife, you maybe have forgotten how to study. You haven't done anything that you suck at in a long time.
That's
and
right.
so you're having to kind of renew these things and learn these things again. So having someone that will help guide you in the process and really cares about you. And you said it was clear I didn't care about you, or I don't know what phrase.
No, I didn't say I didn't say that. I didn't. No, but well, so when it comes to the preparation, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know anybody that was about to take their private pilot check ride and felt, yeah, I'm 100% ready. Bring it on. Because you've never even been through a check ride. You don't even know.
Yes.
I felt nervous. I felt skeptical of my fantastic instructor because he's like, you're ready. It's kind of like soloing, right? Like it's the same kind of thing. But Ted, go ahead.
Yeah, I have something to say, but first I want to highlight Wendell Geek's comment. He said, finding an instructor that uses a syllabus. I'll take things I wish I knew before I started flight training for 100, Alex. But before I think I said this before on the podcast, but before my sport check ride, which is private minus 5%, I kind of drove the, like, hey, let me get one more mock check ride. Let me get one more mock check ride. And I couldn't figure out what I was seeing in these CFIs, fairly senior CFIs, right? They're not my primary one. And I realized later, as I'm going through their version of the flight, I realized later, oh, this is what a CFI looks like when they're bored. Like, it's all they can do to not be on their phone the entire flight because, I mean, flying private pilot check ride maneuvers to a CFI that has been around for a while, when the student is doing so well, you're not going to have to like reach in. Not that I'm like the world's greatest student or anything else. I'm just saying that by the time you're at that point, as a midlifer, we do doubt ourselves and we do want that extra feedback. And so, you may need more of those mock check rides before you believe you know what you're doing. Again, at your primary level, right? On that first one where you have no idea what's going on and what a check ride's going to be like.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up mock check rides. So, I was kind of talking about laying the groundwork with your instructor or all those things that should prepare you throughout your training. And I say that because when I was assistant chief and I would do the final stage checks for candidates, it was shocking to me how many students had never seen the ACS or had never opened their FAR aim.
Yep.
That's day one. We need to lay out all of the books and see what are we working towards here, right? What is it that you need to be doing? What are you trying to achieve? And the ACS is just that. This is what we're working towards. So along those lines, you need to know what the airman certification standards are, and you need to read through it. It's not a big document. It's 25 pages or so, and it's your entire test. You also need to be familiar reading the Federal Aviation Regulations. And then as you go through training and really get close to that check ride, that's when we would send someone to do a mock check ride like you're talking about, Ted. So another instructor, preferably one who's experienced and senior and sent people to check rides. And it should be probably a whole day where they go through the entire oral portion of the practical. So area of operation 1, pre-flight procedures, is what we refer to as the oral. And a really good oral for a mock check ride could take as long as 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Your actual oral for your check ride is probably going to be an hour and a half if you know your material. But the examiner isn't going to ask you everything. They're going to pick some things out, but they could ask you anything in that book. So you want to be prepared. And then if you pass the oral portion with your examiner, your evaluator, this person administering the mock check ride, then going up and doing a check ride, similar plan of action, which if it's done well, you should show up with a navigation log or a flight plan. You should execute that flight plan to the first 1 or 2 waypoints. And then from there, you'll begin the sequence of the actual maneuvers, which you can refer to the Airman Certification Standards for that. But that would be the biggest way to prepare for the actual practical exam. And doing that with someone who's tough will be good because you'd rather spend the money with an instructor rather than an evaluator.
Yeah, for sure. I had the sport PTS and the private ACS in published versions and printed out. And they both, the spines were broken and the pages started falling out of both of them because I spent so much time trying to compare them. And yeah, definitely over the top, but that's what we do is try to figure this thing out as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I love having the paper versions too. And I encourage people to have their copy and maybe write notes about references for some of the questions there, like the flight review 6156 and what are my experience requirements and currency requirements, and then all the airworthiness inspection regulations. So then you have those little memory joggers and then you can follow along with the Checkride while he's administering it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I know what page you're on. Yeah.
Right.
Chuck, who recently did a sport pilot Checkride, said, I did the mock oral Checkride with a different CFI, and it lasted over 2.5 hours covering every section on the PTS. Brain fade, but worth it. Rich, who actually got a sport even more recently, said, my mock oral was 3.5 hours. And his instructor's wife, who's also a CFI sport, put him through the ringer. And DPE was a piece of cake by comparison. Yeah, that I hopefully is what especially at the private level people are experiencing, which is my CFI asked me, this is me personally talking, my CFI just like point blank asked me questions I needed to know the answer. And then you go to the Checkride and they're just asking you to talk about a story. They're not like, shotgunning questions at you and expecting immediate answers. And so in some ways it was easier.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who do you work for?
Well, I mean, the waterboarding part I wasn't expecting that, but okay.
But it worked, right? I mean, you got it, you passed.
Yeah.
At the end of every ground lesson I do, we wrap up, we do a review with questions you'll likely be asked on the Checkride, which is good because it helps you understand how the question will be phrased. And then it also helps you practice that active recall in speaking it out loud. So, for example, when you are covering aerodynamics on your private pilot, and we may have talked about this before, I don't know, I bring this one up a lot, but when you're talking about aerodynamics, you will be asked, what is an aerodynamic stall? And there's a very particular phrase they're looking for. There's an exact phrase they're looking for. And if you don't say it exactly, they're going to dig in. Do you guys know the phrase? I see nodding. Go ahead, Ben.
A stall is when you exceed the critical angle of attack.
Perfect. And so then we know the next question is going to be, what is angle of attack? Right. And so these are the questions that an examiner would ask, and they're looking for FAA phraseology. So part of studying on your own prior to the Checkride is going to be practicing active recall with that appropriate phraseology.
I want to add to that I've noticed even instrument and commercial, that specific phraseology is important. When I was doing multi and we're doing our single engine flows, it is identify left foot's dead, and then you don't say left. It's mixture props throttles. You do left mixture, or everything's forward, but you identify the engine that you're pulling down in every single thing. They want to hear the exact words. It's not just you can't mixture props throttles, flips gears, blah 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 blah. It's I am going to check the left throttle, no change. I am feathering the left prop, and I am cutting the left mixture to idle cutoff. I mean, they want to hear very specific stuff. That seems like it goes all the way through whichever rating you're getting.
Also, by the way, if you're in a plane, in a multi-engine plane with an actual engine failure, wouldn't you too also want the guy who's checking everything to be sure about which engine he's pulling? It's like, I mean, that's just of all the things. That's not, We're not going out like that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
We've got a good engine.
Which is why you say the specific throttle that you're pulling back on and not just a throttle. Or a random throttle.
Ben and Erica first. Do you notice, because your people have done multiple check rides, do you notice that kind of increase in what I'm going to call professionalism as you go up the stack, like CFI multi, things like that?
Yes. You mean from the examiner's perspective or the expectations for the candidate?
As the candidate, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think expectations definitely increase in terms of how you carry yourself.
Especially in the commercial environment, that for the commercial rating and the multi-add-on commercial, you are basically saying, I want to be compensated to fly airplanes, so you need to be professional. And I do think that they raised the bar a little bit.
Eric, I want to ask you this. Maybe you got some advice along the way that you remembered. I can tell you the advice that I got for my check ride that I remembered that was so helpful for my private pilot check ride. My CFI said, many times he said this. He said, remember that it is a marathon and not a sprint. And you have to maintain your presence of mind over a sustained period of time in a way that you will find challenging but doable, as long as you understand that it is a marathon and not a sprint, and just remain even. And he even warned me, there's going to be a point where now there's the part where you're kind of headed back to the airport, and you will have just survived a gauntlet of failed engines and steep turns and all these things and whatever. And then now for just a moment, you're getting a little bit of a breather to just go back to the airport before you do the rest of your landings and all that. And he said, moments like that, as soon as you find yourself taking a breath, remember that it is a marathon, not a sprint, and to keep your attention and your focus sharp. And that really goes into, obviously, instrument flying and all of that, right? Because by gosh, you have to be ahead of the airplane in private. You've got to really, really be ahead of the airplane in instrument. So that presence of mind, that marathon, sustained consciousness and awareness, how do you get students to dial into that?
It's a really good question. Well, one of the things that I like to teach is that if you find yourself not doing something, there's probably something you can do. There's some checklist you can run, or there's some way you can prepare for the next phase of flight. But the whole course of training is a marathon. And there are times that I have to have pep talks with people or encourage them, like, yes, there is still a lot to study, but you have studied and learned so much. And there are some people who also, they can't handle the marathon. They would have rather had the sprint. And so they pace themselves out in the first half of the first lap, But that's a really good question. That's something that I need to...
Yeah, for check ride specifically is kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Here's the one thing that helped me a lot. And it's one sentence. You kind of touched on this a little bit, Eric. What are the next two things? What are the next two things that I need to do? And if you keep asking yourself that, when you get that moment to breathe that you're talking about, Brian, ask yourself, what are the next two things? And at least get your mind going through, do your checklist. Maybe I can just set up the next frequency. Maybe I can do, A, B, C, or D. Yeah. That phrase has always helped me stay engaged and try to stay ahead of the airplane.
Yeah. And also just for instrument, is what is the next thing I expect to happen? Or it's going to bifurcate. It's going to be like, well, we're either going to get vectors or there's going to be, so you can start working those chains sort of simultaneously for either outcome. Right. So, but
I'm reflecting more on your question. And I think I haven't clearly said this is a marathon, not a sprint, but there are other ways that I kind of say that. One of them, somebody asked, they were going to interview DPEs. They asked what questions to ask. Yeah. And one of the things I asked is, will we stop for lunch? Right? Take a break for lunch. Take a breather if you can, if your adrenaline can handle it. And then also, as I'm preparing students for a check ride, clearing turns, I encourage them to do 1 360 instead of, turn 90, then the other 90. First of all, there's no written standard for how to do a clearing turn as long as you clear the area. But also the 360 gives you time to take a breath and think about what you're going to do before you have to actually execute it. So there are little ways that I encourage people to slow down and and prepare themselves for what they're about to do throughout the flight.
It's good psyops for an impatient DPE also. It's like, no, I'm controlling the tempo here, buddy. And this is painful for you, isn't it?
Right.
So,
I mean, you paid for their whole day already.
Yeah.
So may as well use it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anything else we want to cover?
Yeah. Anything else in the chat that we got here? If you guys have anything real quick, throw it at us. Otherwise, we're just going to get to this last bit of feedback.
We got a little audio to play, I believe.
Oh, are we doing? Oh, geez, that's right. Are we doing that? Ted, are you ready for that?
We can. Yeah.
So it's Thanksgiving week, right?
Truth.
I know we try to keep this evergreen, and Brian, you don't like to mention days and things, but the fact is it's Thanksgiving week. And if you're not listening to this in 2025, then wait till 2026 and listen to this around November. So before we end, we have Thanksgiving, we have friends, we have our friend One Dull Geek with a rant, and this is an awesome one. So Ted, can you cue that up for us?
Yeah, I got that here.
Ben, Brian, Ted, it's been a while, but I'd like a word. And today, that word is friends. I usually write these rants about something that is mildly annoying, but that I can exaggerate into something funny. And it's odd to say that friends are annoying, but when those friends are also pilots and sitting in the right seat of your airplane, there are a number of, let's call them entertaining conflicts that can arise. My favorite one, I was the source of. I was flying with Brian for the very first time. This was during the 100th episode podcast. And I'm imagining Brian right now listening to this, knowing exactly the story I'm going to tell. Ben, Brian, Ted, and OG Chris got together for the 100th episode, and I tagged along. Actually, it's worse than that. My airplane had real-life maintenance-induced failure that was caught specifically by running through my checklists and flows. But I digress. That failure resulted in Ben and Ted, by pure luck, seeing my text and in flight diverting to come get me so that I could join them. Anyway, before recording the episode, we decided that we all needed to go see Clarksburg Airport, which was highlighted in so many of OG Chris's videos. I was riding right seat in Brian's airplane, and my responsibility was the radio. So we landed at Clarksburg, and we were intentionally taxiing back slowly so that we could see Ben's landing. No one in this group gets more grief for his landings than Ben. So of course, I wanted to film the landing just in case it was comment-worthy. Clarksburg Tower noticed what we were doing and rightly wondered if something was wrong. And I keyed up and said, "No, we're good. We're just trying to film our friend's landing." And at that moment, Brian basically firewalled the throttle. And you could see just written all over his face, "Why in the world would you say that on frequency?" A few seconds later, Ben keyed up and said to the tower, "I apologize for my friends." I think that one comment annoyed them both. One way of looking at this is that I was efficient. A couple of hours later, we were flying back to Fairmont. I was again riding in the right seat of Brian's airplane, and we heard Ben announce that he was turning a 7-mile left base for the runway. Both Brian and I immediately saw this as an opportunity to harangue Ben. And Brian keys up and says the snarkiest version of Fairmont traffic, Cherokee 5116 Lima, is maneuvering for a 45 entry to a left downwind for runway 23. And unspoken, but clearly communicated was, unlike some people in the pattern. Ben got the message and responded with, we have a fuel leak. But he said it in such a way that made both Brian and me think that Ben was making up some reason to do a long straight in. So after Brian and I were done laughing at Ben's obviously flimsy excuse, Brian keys up and meows on frequency as if to say, "Well, okay, fine. If the rules are off, meow." I thought it was hilarious. When we finally landed, we immediately went to give Ben grief. And all three of the people in the airplane, Ben, Ted, and Luke, confirmed that it was a real fuel leak. I can only imagine how annoyed Ben was with us at that exact moment where his airplane was quite literally hemorrhaging fuel while we were making fun of him. That said, the minor annoyances that come from flying with friends is an unbelievably small cost in comparison to how incredibly enjoyable it is. Personally, I love watching how other pilots do things. Without fail, I see something that they do that makes me think, I should do that too. Plus, flying with friends is just fun. Although, as I think about it, I haven't flown with Brian since then. All right, thanks.
Oh, man, that is next level.
I love that. And yes, flying with friends is fun and annoying. Do we still have Erica?
We are here. I'm
Excellent.
here. Yes. I love that. Mark is great. He's wonderful.
Ben, what were you thinking when we were just not even believing this whole fuel leak thing?
Well, I mean, I was genuinely, I haven't seen that before. And when Luke said that you're crop dusting fuel, and we laughed about the guy sitting down, on a smoke break, and then all of a sudden turns into this black soot out of nowhere, just completely explodes. But I was like, I knew he had enough fuel to get to the field, and I wasn't worried about that. But I was thinking about spraying fuel all over everybody, so I wanted to get on the ground as quickly as possible. And when you meowed, I was like, okay, he thinks that I'm making this up. So I will give Wendell Geek full credit. He nailed exactly what was going on in my head. He was spot on.
Oh, we both thought you were totally full of it. I just thought that is lowest common denominator, Ben, to say, got a fuel leak. Really? Yep. Oh my gosh.
And the way that Luke presented it to me was, Ben, I'm coming off the back of your wing. I'm not sure it's supposed to be doing that.
It's an 11-mile flight. We just filled up, and it's like, will we make it? Can we glide? It's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I am burning 15 gallons an hour for you. I mean, that probably seems like a lot that maybe I wouldn't have enough to get there.
Yeah.
Do you have the long range tanks? The big ones?
I do. We hold 80 gallons, 79 usable.
Now, was that a problem with the cap? Did the seal on that?
That's exactly what happened, Erica.
I've seen that in 182s before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Mark, specifically. You are a great friend, and
I didn't realize that that's why you meowed. I didn't put all that together because there were so many things going on, and
it was a very
funny. It's funny to hear this from Mark. Kind of sees it all now. And
it was quite the devolution of us all in the pattern together. This is basically what happens.
Yeah, and Lord Alpha Juliet covers the correct response that Ben should have said, which is a sterile cockpit. Yeah.
Very, very good.
Well, so in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I just want to make sure that we are. I just want to make sure that you guys all know that are listening, that we are very thankful for you listening to whatever it is that we're doing here. And continue to do so. And it's been something that is a lot of work for us, but it's also not hard because we just basically set the bar kind of low, and that works for us. But ultimately what it is it's the most rewarding thing that I think a lot of us get to do. And we didn't record even for 2 weeks. We missed doing it, so as hard as it is to do a podcast every week and deliver an episode every week, you guys make it all 1,000% worth it. And I do not take it lightly when I see feedback messages come in, people saying, that we somehow provided some sort of space or something, or for them to help them get over the hump to get it done, or inspired them to finish, or inspired them to start, or just were of some help in some, indirect way that isn't that necessarily that instructor path of helping people. That's why we hire the big guns to come on here, like Erica, and set us straight. We hadn't even gotten through all the. I guess maybe Erica, we'll have you back for Christmas, and we can do like a Festivus thing where you can air out all of your grievances for all the things we've said because they're totally wrong.
Yeah. I have the list. Yeah. No, really. I just call you the next day, Brian, and I'm like, well, this, that, and that.
Yeah.
No. Well, I agree with you, Brian. In this season of Thanksgiving, I would have never met Erica Gilbert without this podcast. There's a lot of people I wouldn't have met. So it is a labor of love for sure. Gentlemen, anything else before I get to that point, 5-star reviews, please leave us one. We'll bribe you. Ted will come and mow your lawn. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your podcast app, or you can watch us Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/@Midlife Pilot Podcast. Now, any other comments for the good of the order? And that includes you, Miss.
I'm just so happy to be here. I love hanging out with you guys. Anytime someone says, I found out about you from the Midlife Pilot Podcast, go on about how much I enjoy y'all's company.
Aw.
So, in the spirit of the holiday, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Absolutely.
I wrote down a list of what we've learned this week, and that's that learning is like cheese, learning is like broccoli, and learning is like the feeling of finding the edges around a dark room. So I just want to make sure we recapped on that.
Cheese, broccoli, and room edges. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Tonight's wisdom I pulled from the multi-engine files. So if you're ready, flying multi-engine, twice the complexity, half the peace of mind. Signing off, episode 156 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.